February 7th, the Board of Ethics. Roll call.
Ted Carlson,
Here.
Terry Kelly, Jack McKenna,
Here.
David Nesbitt, Marsha Olson.
Here.
Also present is Dee Ennis, Deputy Municipal Attorney, and Lisa Slusner, Deputy Municipal Clerk. You have a quorum.
Okay.
Do we know if Lisa? I think Lisa was
When?
coming. Okay.
When they, if you'll take notice when he doesn't show up, that they
And Adam.
add him to the minutes. We have two sets of minutes, November 9th and January 11th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comment? That's for both. That was for both November 9th and January 11th.
Of course, I wasn't here for November 9th, but I did go back and listen to the entire meeting, so that's
Okay.
where that comes from. Terry!
There's Terry.
Okay, let me put the time down. 10:05.
So, are they all in favor of approving them?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes have been approved. We want to, I'll turn it over to Terry.
Oh, no, please. No.
Okay. Go on to consent agenda. There's nothing in the consent agenda except down the disclosure of economic interests, and there's three of them in there, and they all have no conflict according to the form that they wrote in it. So if you want to take a minute to look over them. Okay, does anybody have any comment or on the consent agenda that disclosure of interest, municipal contract, or business by a public servant? Do you have any questions on them, any of them?
No, both look fine.
Okay.
Good to me.
Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Okay. Go on to new business.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
May I just point out that we still have that draft change for the gift section on there. I know that that is not a priority, but I just want to let you know that I'm going to leave it on there until we deal with it, because until Dee does it, because we also have another one regarding the annual report. So we're starting, which are quick and easy ones. We're going to make it biannual, so we can sort of do a lot of those.
If I can ask, the next Ethics and Elections Committee for the Assembly, because we should bring both the gift thing to them and also the solicitation policy, and let's just do it, and I'll rope David into coming with us.
Okay, well, it's on February 27th,
27th Wednesday.
12 to
Can you
1.
put us on the agenda for that?
Yes.
So it'll be both policies. Because
Yeah.
any
Okay.
code change, you should go through them first,
Yes. Alrighty.
and that will give me a word deadline.
Okay. And I'll remind you too.
Okay. We'll go on to new business. Reorganization of board leadership. Nomination for chair. Well, first of all, we received a letter of resignation from you.
Right.
We didn't accept it.
Yeah.
We did accept it.
Well, I apologize. I don't mind telling you, holy cow, I had, mononucleosis, and I got better about 3 weeks ago. So it was a solid 6.5 months
Yeah.
of, just being sick, and I just, it was all I could do to teach my classes through the week, and I would just get to Friday and I would just sleep
Yeah.
almost all of Friday. I just couldn't meet these obligations. So so I eventually sent a letter and saying, like, boy, I need to at least resign as chair, and if I stay sick for much longer, I'm going to have to resign from the board altogether.
Yeah.
So I am better, I think. So I'm happy to stay on as chair if no one else wants to do it, right? But if there is a desire and interest for
Well,
other people to take the position, I am happy
it's up to you whether or not you withdraw your resignation.
Well, rather than nominations, are there any people that want to express a desire to be the chair?
Yeah, because I've been out of the loop for several months now, right? I mean, so there is some sense if someone else wanted to take over.
I wouldn't mind, but if you want out to take over as chair.
Well, Terry, I think we've had problems with scheduling a lot, plus you've been sick for 3 or 4 months, but
Yeah.
if now that we're back on track, that you're not gonna, well, hopefully you're not gonna be sick, you can't be sick. And then from 10 to 12, you will be able to make those meetings.
Right.
And that would be the concern about the chair.
So
Okay.
you want to remain as chair?
Well, I guess I'll stay on then. Yeah. Okay. I mean, all right.
Okay,
You want to
nomination.
remain as vice chair?
Nomination for vice chair.
I think Ted's been doing an excellent job.
Huh?
I think you've been doing an excellent job. It's nice to have you fill in, and
Okay.
yeah, I think
So-
at least for the next year, stay the course. And
Okay.
So I'll stay on this. Okay, that takes care of that.
Try to do a coup.
You can't do subtle coups. What is that?
That's right. It's on the agenda, right? That's the mistake. Never put it on the agenda. I'm like, oh man, I better come. I better go to this meeting. Right? Usually, I sit home and watch Game of Thrones during these meetings, but I guess I better actually show up.
yeah, don't drink your coffee.
Yeah, right.
Okay, the first one is 7A, request for advisory opinion, confidential.
We're gonna do Eric though.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was going to say we have a time
Can I move
certain
to
at
go to
10:15.
7D. Make a motion to go to 7D throughout it.
Any objection, you want to 7B? Okay. We can go with 7B.
Please have seat.
Thanks, and thanks for moving around your agenda.
It actually is. It hasn't been waived unless Eric wants to waive it. Confidentiality.
You have 2 copies of the memo?
This one right here.
7B.
Okay, cool.
So why do we keep saying 7B? Because it's not 7B.
No.
7D.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. I
Okay.
don't,
What
not
are
my
we,
7D.
what are we looking for? 7D?
70.
7B.
There's no
Delta.
70.
Delta.
My suggestion would be to let everybody read this memo, because other people haven't been here for a couple of sessions, and unless Eric wants to just present it.
Well, and I don't know if it has to be confidential. We can keep it generic or nameless. The primary difference is I was asked to do a memo telling assembly members about their accounts in December, and there was the highlighted section of the prior memo. So this was, we were going off LVs that she sent in 16. We were changing the amount because it's slightly different. But then this stood out. Examples of other appropriate uses include constituent mailers and other constituent outreach and communication. Innocuous enough, but they're so if a assembly member said, I want to do a constituent mailer in December and I'm up in April, take it to the other extreme. I want to do an April constituent mailer to the registered voters of my district. What would you like me to tell them? And it raised some of the other, I think the more general, as people come up for election, are there different criteria? I think a constituent mailer 6 months in, when you have 2.5 years of, sounds perfectly fine, and one in April sounds horrible, and I don't really know where to draw the clean line between them. The other things that have come up, Lisa, they've one or two have asked if they can buy equipment, mainly laptops. We have said yes, but it remains property of the municipality, so you can do that, but you give it back when it ends. Seems like that is appropriate if they buy a laptop and a year later are out. At some point, I think that would not be so. That is, if Dick Cheney bought one way back when and then now was retiring, we might say, well, it has a de minimis value or it has been depreciated. So
He turned it in. It's behind you right
yeah.
there.
It's been here. Nobody uses it anyway. Just go ahead. And I don't know. But the more pressing is I would, obviously, they have, this money should, I think, be used for constituent outreach, but it shouldn't be used for electioneering.
The point that I would, if that is used for the mailer, if you do that throughout, other times of the year, in other words, if you only do it just before election, we might consider that as but if you do it every 3 months or something like that, mail order once a year or something like that, is that at once?
I think they're expensive enough. They do them once, and it sounds like once late in a term. It makes sense. It takes a while to just get your feet under you. But I said it was going to be named. But did Elvie do a mailer way back? And what was the timing of that? Do you remember?
It wasn't. It wasn't. That it wasn't controversial at all.
It wasn't near an election.
Yeah, she was not. Remember, she wasn't going for re-election. This was her
She was
farewell
going out.
to her.
Right.
Yeah.
Which that seems on the very innocent end of it. I'm
So-
not even running.
One suggestion, and I recognize this is separate, but it also implicates the city attorney's office and advice regarding APOC compliance. Is I think the distinction that we're all kind of running into is whether or not the mailer could influence the outcome of the election, and I'm saying that separate from the APOC purpose because we're not the city's APOC attorneys here.
Right.
But I think the line is exactly that. What really causes the concern is if you're sending it right before the election, whether you're using city money to influence voters.
Would you draw it then when they've declared? A lot of people are known to be. So there's two separate things, right? You file so that you can raise money, and everyone knows you're running, you're calling for people and all that. But you haven't declared, and that declaration doesn't come just now, right?
Just
so it's
now.
a February thing for April. So
That's a
anything
nice-
up to your declaration of candidacy?
Okay.
It's a bright line, but I mean, I do it in January before an election to every registered voter saying how great the things I did.
Okay, does it mention anything at all about you?
Better mention something about me, or I don't know why I'm sending
running.
it. Yeah.
No,
Oh, running.
running for election in April.
No, they would not. I mean, that would be a bright line rule that we would
Right.
prohibit. I think it was in the hypothetical, right? It would have me in pictures in Sand Lake and Spenard and Turnagain and all the things we were accomplishing over 3 years, and pictures of better looking people than me and all kinds of good stuff. Dogs.
You can, I noticed that Terry's looking and I'm looking under 1.15.
If you're cheating, you're looking at the
No.
actual thing.
What does this code actually say?
Well, it may be that something you punt back to us and say, if you want a bright line rule, you should write it.
Okay, this is simply political activity, what you can use municipal resources for. And
Which
I think
section you in?
it's 1.15.10.
110.
And what you can use municipal resources for, which would be this assembly fund. And so I would think that we're assuming that in this there's no advocacy or it's simply an update on what you have done. But we might at least mention this code section, say, assuming that you're not using it for advocacy purposes at this point, that it's really an update thing. But is that a correct assumption? And maybe we just keep to those facts. So you want to send out a mailer in January, and really it's an update on what you've accomplished during the year and the status of the assembly. And Jack's right. I mean, the assembly people have to deal with APOC on their own and mail out some of this kind of stuff, and that's not us. So do we say, okay, assuming you're not running afoul of any of this stuff, now get back to Eric's question? And it's only because I can see Terry and I keep looking at this. And I'm waiting for Terry to jump in, both feet on this thing. But do you have anything more to add about this? Because I'm assuming that Eric's question is there's not an advocacy element here for any other issue. You know, that someone picks an issue that they know the majority of the voters are against or for or against, like a equal rights bond thing. You know, I think this should be changed, and that shouldn't be going out in the mailer in January either for an April election, because you want to get votes of all those people.
Right. Yeah, I guess the question is, and I think it's, you know, I have the same worry, and I take it this is like Eric's worry, possible worry too, right? Is if you send a mailer out 2 weeks before the election, and the overall theme of the mailer is, look at all the great stuff that I'm doing. And maybe it doesn't say vote for me or anything, but it's like, you know, it's got pictures of Eric at the fire station and Eric doing this, you know, and it's all true, and it's all just, one might say, and at a different time of year, it's just a normal update on what I'm doing and what's going on at City Hall and things like that. But 2 weeks before an election, I mean, at least they maybe not the intention, though probably would be the intention, but certainly the effect on voters would be, in some ways, perhaps even more powerful than a campaign mailer, right? Which people would tend to dismiss of, like, well, okay, that's just his campaign. Of course, he's going to say he's doing a great job.
It should look official and have real official looking stuff.
Well, that's right. So it's going to have even more sort of capital, symbolic capital with voters. I think, you know, I think that is a potential problem. I mean, people are not supposed to be using municipal resources to support candidates. Is that, in essence, what you're doing when you send a mailer out that close to the election? Certainly the extreme case is a few weeks before an election. Wow.
I think it's a situation where the timing is such that it really transforms what would, at another point in time, be perfectly appropriate activity into political activity. I mean, as we defined it under the code, and that is not okay. So there's something about that timing that makes it political activity.
That's my intuition in that way. Yeah, I mean, we do that with gifts too, right? I mean, it's the nature and timing of the gift that can make a gift into something that's prohibited by the code.
Okay, so the timelines that jump out as making sense are, you can't do any mass mailings or any significant expenditure for any kind of mass communications out of this office after you filed in February, or before that, after you filed your letter of intent for municipal office and are raising money. The difficulty with the earlier one, which is more expansive and more protective, and prevents kind of a December-January mailing, is you could be running, I mean, it could be for any municipal office. It might be you were running for school board. It probably is you're running for re-election. Any idea? And then briefly, I know you have a full agenda. Appreciate you moving it up. That I want a reminder on alcohol tax stuff, because we're going to have a lot of people answering alcohol tax questions, and what I need to tell them about that advocacy or not. And that is more directly, I think, in this section. But anyway, so on this, file for the office. Certainly, I think file for the office. But before that is a little trickier.
I think you would know the most about that versus us, because we're not. None of those deadlines mean anything to us.
And filing for advocacy is February 1st, did you say? Or filing for office February 1st?
Early February,
Something
traditionally
like
for an
that?
April election, so it just passed.
Yeah.
People I think just passed the withdrawal deadline, so it was
Right.
early in February.
What kind of makes you feel, as a person who's obviously paying attention to this, that something doesn't kind of pass the smell test in terms of political activity? When is too late?
I think certainly declaring is too late. And the other thing that is clear is this cannot say anything close to vote or remind of elections, whatever. It has to be purely about what you did.
I think I'm okay with the bright line rule there, and just pointing back to the code. I think like we've said before, we can't legislate for every possible instance, and so here I think you do have to say, like, we've got a good bright line rule, and say follow the code. Don't use muni resources for actual auctioneering.
So the bright line would be, you think,
Declaration of running for an office, you can't use resources, and it can never, no matter when it is, no matter the timing,
say
talk
that.
about election things.
I think it has to be the beginning of the declaration period, because you could do a technicality where you send out the mailer on Monday and then file on Friday.
I like that. That's better.
Yeah.
So
So is there a quota declaration
there's a period, yes.
Is there?
Oh, interesting.
Better. Up to the week.
And then we could define that with the code,
Mhm.
right? And so that's in our.
Yeah, it's in
election code.
28,
Okay.
Title 28 somewhere.
And then we'll let you do other stuff, but alcohol tax, we get a lot of questions of it. We're talking about it. I assume, right, at assembly meetings where I'm there on no municipal resource or de minimis, I don't know. Checking the website or whatever, but it's not an expenditure. I can say, vote for it, and here's why.
Yeah, can I back you up? Do you guys know what this is about? Is whether there's on a ballot about
I'm sorry.
whether, can you go back to what's
Yeah,
on the
so we
ballot?
passed, and we're going to be voting on in April, an alcohol tax, but the people have to approve it. It's a charter amendment. And we run across this, sometimes charter amendments, we propose things we're for. Can I do a 10 reasons to vote for the alcohol tax? Send it to my West Side constituents, why I voted for the alcohol tax? Why you'd be a fool not to vote for this proposal we put on the ballot?
Okay, so certainly advocacy at the assembly meeting, that's just your opinion, that's a debate, right?
Well,
So really you're asking about it in the context of maybe a mail out?
Well, let's step it through, right? So assembly meeting, the same thing, right? I'm saying there, here's why I did it, and I think everyone here should vote yes, and here's why.
Okay, that's your job.
And
I have printed out 20 flyers that summarize what I just told you, and I copied it here so that all you assembly members know my 10 points about the alcohol, or all you council members, you community council
Yeah.
members. De minimis, relatively political, but all I did was copy it.
Well, and it's
well, the
different.
assembly voted for it, so, to put it on the ballot, so you know that they're for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like,
It ain't a secret, but I'm trying, they need to vote for it or it doesn't, the people need to vote for it.
yeah,
And so I'm trying to convince them
Yeah.
to do that.
yeah.
Okay, so it's really outreach to people, not, because against assembly, you do whatever you want at the
Neat.
assembly meeting.
Community
And with
council, I'm
your-
really not spending resources.
Mhm.
Now I want to do a mailer on the alcohol tax. People have a lot of questions about it. Here's why it's a good idea.
So you can, according to.
Do you go around to community councils?
Yeah, and like I said, I have assumed, I don't think we talked about it, Spinard last night, but I've assumed I can say, I
Well, that's
usually,
C1A,
right,
that you can appear before community council and vote your opposition.
support or opposition to a
So
ballot
that-
measure.
You're clear on community councils, right? I mean, that's just easy, that's black and white.
Yeah.
So then mailers.
And I think B has the kind of clerical. I tell my aide to look into summarizing the 10 reasons why this is a good idea.
And what
and
about
I-
C2?
Well, let's stay with B.
Okay,
And
do
I
you mind?
have
Yeah, no,
some
fine.
copy toss.
You get copy costs and they drive you to the meeting, which
Well, that doesn't
administration
really
seems to
happen.
like.
Okay,
Our
maybe they're
administration
doing
gets driven to the meetings.
that. So Ethan's driven the meeting, or I make some copies.
Or you bring a staffer along with you. Because this doesn't say staffer, it says you can do it, so you bring your intern with you. or
Yeah,
something.
employee
So
time.
I think that's, fine.
More them, but a little less. Okay. And now I want to send out the mailer on the alcohol tax.
What about C2 though? You can voice your opinion as part of your usual and customary duties with similar limited use of municipal resources. So how much resource? So
Yeah, so whether that's limited use.
yeah.
And I think, Terry, you were the one that was big on B. I think it was you. APOC within the last year or two has just changed that. this legislature, state legislature, can do mail-outs for and against different issues. In the past, that was a big deal, and all they have to do is report their mailing costs. So there's a reporting element, but in the old days, they couldn't do that. So that's really changed, the recognition that elected officials have opinions, and that's why they're elected. So for us, it's a matter of first impression. Is that a limited use of municipal resources to do a mail-out? I remember we had a mayor that used $40,000 for radio funds or for some big amount, and that was clear. First, I was local, but clearly that was not a limited use. So
What was that? What issue was that?
that was AO 37.
Yeah.
Well, because the administration feels like they need to be able to reach out to people too, so the administration might be in support of this tax, and let's say it isn't. And so, so it's going to go both ways because they're both elected officials. And there's always been, I've always advocated that we need to educate the public. I think, Terry, you've been on the other side that it opens up a Pandora's box about using money, which is the whole idea of the old code, that you didn't use municipal resources to fight in-house over an issue. So, can there be a mail out by an assembly or the mayor that's $10,000?
In oppose,
Either direction.
well, as far as the assembly goes, if the assembly votes to put it on the ballot, okay, that any assembly member cannot speak against it.
Well, I think they can.
No, not according to Robert's Rules of Order. See,
Ted,
They
I'm not
if-
enforcing that for sure.
am I right about that?
I don't know.
Oh,
First Amendment versus Robert's Rules.
Yeah.
I haven't.
well, I mean, the assembly goes by Robert Rule if there's not a law, if there's not a, right. And anything that the body is in favor of, and they vote to do it, or put it on the ballot or whatever, if they vote to put it on, no member of that body
Should.
can speak against it.
Okay, well, Ted, can I make a suggestion though?
Sure.
Is that we take it, remember, we've always tried to go back to our code only, that we take it out of the First Amendment world. That's up to the assembly to do their own enforcement.
Right.
And under our, and so I'm just making that suggestion, because we used to try to avoid APOC rules too, is that, because we're not the interpreter of
Exactly.
APOC, can we do a bad enough job?
Yeah.
To get it just back to the code, assuming they can, well, first of all, they're doing it.
Right.
So they're already doing it.
Yeah.
Assuming that, what are our code parameters?
Well,
And I think it
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
Does-
Ted, I just feel like I've lost what the actual question is we're trying to answer. So I
Okay.
I may
The
have
mail
fallen
out,
off the
yeah.
back, but like, what's the
Do
specific
you mind
question?
if I summarize real quick?
Sure.
The number one principle I think that we've adopted in the new code was simply that assembly people, all elected officials, are entitled to their own opinion. That's what we elected them for. They can use their title and say, I'm an assembly person, I disagree with this tax, or I agree with it. But then the second question is, yes, but how much municipal resources can they use? And we had sort of a little rule that,
Yeah,
well, they
sheet
can do
paper.
educational
Blank
stuff.
paper.
So, well, let's make it simpler. If Eric wants to send out a mail that says, these are the 5 reasons why it's good for you people to vote for this, and so then I'm not going to get carried away.
That
But-
frames it the best. I want to send out a mailer this week that says, I've got a lot of questions from my constituents. Here is all the reasons you should vote in the April election for the alcohol tax.
And sort of like, the one of the arguments that we had on this board years ago, Keith Silver was, I think, the one who argued this the most, is that as a citizen he found it sort of offensive that taxpayer money was being used by government officials to tell him how he should be voting in the upcoming election. And that's
But
not...
there's an educational element. And so I think it
Right.
was Dick Cheney's marijuana resolution that we said, you can't say you constituents should vote for this. But you could say, here's the advantages and the disadvantages, but of course you're really saying, here's the really great things.
Right.
implying why you should vote.
But in that case, there was de minimis use of resources, right?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like at a meeting, there were some photocopies, it went on the web. What the assembly then did not do was authorize a $10,000 mailing to citizens
right.
generally.
And
I
they're
think,
not,
and I
yeah.
think even there, that probably would have crossed a line. And I think that's the thing. Yeah, and I think you're right. There's a gray area here where Eric goes to a community council meeting and he brings 100 photocopies of this little thing. I actually think that's okay. I think it's part of his duties. He's going to these council meetings. To me, mailers start crossing a line, and if nothing else, I worry about this Pandora's box, or I worry about a race to the bottom, right? So Eric's now sending out a mailer for why the alcohol tax is a great idea. 2 or 3 other members of the assembly think it's a bad idea, so now they are all sending out mailers too. And then the mayor sends out a mailer saying, look at all this disagreement among the assembly. Well, the next thing you know, we're spending $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in very uncertain budget times on an in-house fight, right? Where we would be better off, I think, generally saying to elected officials, go to the media, make appearances at civic organizations, speak your mind at the assembly meeting. And if you want to send a mailer out and pay for it, that's great, but that shouldn't be on the city's dime for you to express your views, even if you are the elected assembly member. At least that was the sense. That was the
debate of
that was the Keith Silver
2 years ago.
That's right.
And some of that debate changes because we have cheaper ways of getting to people and more electronic and social media. And we were shocked to hear that you didn't have your websites. I missed that.
Yeah, Eric, couldn't you just tweet out these 5 reasons and just be done with it? Right?
Yeah. Make it
Instagram story
Yeah,
it.
right. Bureaucrats want alcohol tax, so sad, or something like that.
Yeah, so I'll do that on Facebook. That's my personal one. It's not really, I've not made a municipal one. I think a couple of people have. And there are municipal tweets accounts. So that what I think to me is. So what I'm going to bring back is, on this issue, that section B, which is pretty good. Employee time, copy, research, those kind of things are okay. But a mailer that's advocacy on an issue that is going to be voted on by the people is generally inappropriate. And so don't do it. And in between, I guess, but I'm still going to say or tell people on the assembly, you can still use your email account. So if people email, what do you think of the alcohol tax? I can go on muni.org. I think it's great. You ought to go for it. Here's what. That's
it's a de
basically
minimis resource.
It's de minimis, and I'd say that's close. Yeah, and that's more like your traditional role. That's sort of like a citizen calling you or seeing you at a coffee shop saying, "Hey, what's going on with this alcohol tax?" That's your job, really, in many ways. Or say, "Oh, well, now that you've asked me, let me tell you what I think about it." Right? That's a little bit different from a mailer arriving in my mailbox. It's like, I really don't care what actually I would, but it's like why is who paid for this? And when you find, and again, for some citizens, when they find out the city paid for this, which you basically, which means the citizen basically. It's sort of like, for some of them, it really strikes them as an inappropriate use.
And you
of
don't
these
want the
resources.
different parts of government out resourcing each other. So you only have 10,000, but the mayor has 40. Right. They're going to slam you.
Guys, that's been very helpful. I will write that up and send it to you. And if you think I've materially misstated what you meant, let me know. But thanks for your
Eric.
time.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, Eric. You ask us a question and write the answer. I think that should be a new standard.
Before Eric leaves, is that going to be a confidential, or is that conversation going out on the public meeting record? Because we did not go into executive session. Yeah.
I think the only specific I asked for is Elvie, and she wasn't running, and that seemed fine. So, yeah, this was a general conversation, public, default to public, and it seemed no reason not to. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. And then, Eric, we don't need to do anything. Should we do anything with your the voting, the sending out the mailer close to the election? Do you want to write a paragraph about that?
I'm going to add it to the letter that started all this. Dear Assembly members, which is what I think you should do or not.
Okay.
Here's the money you have and the uses you can make of it.
And so we wouldn't put that on the municipal, on the ethics website.
You guys can do whatever you want. I'm gonna say
Okay.
after consultation with you guys, I think the rule should be this.
Okay, cool.
Lisa, can you open that door? Because I think there's people waiting down there, and they keep peering down for the 11 o'clock. Yeah, so that way they'll know they can come in. If it's all right. Okay. If you all, if you're ready for them.
And for people like Terry and stuff, that Jack wrote sort of a draft opinion when we only had part of the information, and then the other side came and gave us more information. So he's sort of taking lead in terms of having to think.
Okay.
And then so today we wanted some follow-up information. And where's your draft? It's in here, so that
You can
Terry
come
might
in.
want to read it.
Oh, yeah, that would be great if I could get. Is it okay for me to participate in this matter, or do you want me to sit it out now that I'm coming in
Oh, wow, early.
midway across the river?
Nice.
I think that's fine. Can you,
Yeah, I think it's my
Okay.
do we know where the draft
Is it in
Okay.
B?
It's
Is
in
it?
B.
Is it B?
First
The
thing in
thing that
B.
says draft?
Yes.
Do,
I mean, I would suggest a 5-minute break so people.
do we want to?
Get a sandwich
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
read this.
I was really impressed with the judicial
No.
temperament that was shown in
There's
the way
more
this draft was
people
written.
for B,
Really.
right?
Right. And so,
Why don't we finish up A?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
it doesn't start till 11, so we can get a.
Okay. This has been on here since October. It's 2018-4. We have discussed it a few times.
Is this still confidential?
This one is confidential.
Oh, it is.
It's confidential.
Okay.
I'm sorry. folks. Here, why don't you take a bag of chips with you or something? I'm sorry.
So what's the game plan? Are we gonna spend like 5? Are we planning to spend like 5 minutes on this? Because I think we're gonna need more than 5.
Wow.
Okay.
Quarter till.
How long? These guys are here for an 11 o'clock? Or
Yeah.
for 11?
Oh, yeah, they have
Okay. Okay. So I'll tell you what I did.
Do we need to go into executive session?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Till we have to executive.